So Avdiivka has fallen at great cost to Russia, but Putin gets to carry some news back home and look good in front of his people on the state-controlled media. Not a great day for Zelensky, and he will be running around amongst his allies trying to raise money. I guess the big question is, if they gave him all the money in the world, can he translate that into the weaponry he needs to carry on fighting the war?
Yeah, what's been interesting over the last week is Zelensky's been on a whistle-stop tour again, as he does, trying to unlock the US funding. It's blocked in Congress, $60 billion, big numbers of aid. That's become a bit of a political football. And undoubtedly, Zelensky and Biden have both been saying, look, this blockage is the cause for losing Avdiivka. If you don't unlock it, things will get worse. The problem is, if you actually strip behind this story, I get the whole politics of it, but the EU has recently unlocked a similar amount of money for the next year or so. So money isn't necessarily the issue. The issue is weapons. The issue is not even weapons. It's weapons in the hands of the soldiers on the front line being used today. And if we unwrap that, just because you unlock the money, how do you get those weapons swiftly? Now, some of the weapons, for example, dumb weapons like artillery shells, the West has been trying to source those, and they haven't managed to deliver the numbers that Putin's getting from North Korea, for example, but it is gradually unlocking. The problem with that sort of weapon is it's a dumb weapon. You use dumb artillery shells in a war of attrition. That's the one war that Ukraine has to avoid at all costs, because a war of attrition generally favours the bigger military, and Russia is bigger. The advantage that West has given to Ukraine is high-tech, precision strike weapons. That's what's made the difference. But they've come out of war stocks, our own inventories, so it's relatively quick to give them.
And also, as we were covering on a previous podcast, that it's given the West an opportunity to replenish, in the sense that they're getting rid of old stock, which actually might be old technology, because they don't particularly want to expose the new technology to what might be, one of their greatest enemies in the future. I think it was Poland, in revamping their entire defence structure, were giving some of the old stuff to Ukraine, which is fine. But obviously there comes a point when that runs out, and then you've got to spin up new development, which may not be that easy.
You're absolutely right. So Storm Shadow for the Brits, 30-year-old missiles, proved very effective at schwacking a number of Russian targets, but we don't have that many of them. And as you say, our replacement missiles, we don't want to give them... Technology is our asymmetric advantage. It's the one advantage we have over Russia. So would we now give Ukraine our state-of-the-art weapons when some of those weapons are likely to go into the black market and therefore could well fall into the hands of Russia or China?
You mean black market in the sense that in the journey from America to Ukraine, there's somewhere some of them get diverted?
Yeah, because we can't keep absolute track of this stuff. It is a war zone. There's lots of uncertainty. Money changes hands. And therefore, we're not that worried if the older weapons go into their hands. So the real answer is, so you can't replace the weapons. The money comes in, what do we do with it? We haven't got weapons in the weapon stock. We can't give them the most modern weapons. So you go to industry and say, right, we need to spin up our defence industrial base. So one of the arguments has been, we're 10 times the size collectively of Russia. Put our minds to it, we can do this. Yeah, but Russia is doing it. They are spinning up their factories using oil revenue to fund spending exorbitant amounts of money from their GDP on defence. What are we doing? And you know only too well, working in industry, how long does it take? I come to you and say, right, I'd like you to invent a new missile. I need you to be able to do this, this and this.
Yeah, come back in 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to happen next week, is it?
No.
And that's the problem, is that unless we find a way to ramp this up. Now, if it's true that both Russia and Ukraine are going to have to lick their wounds for a while, it's quite possible there'll be some sort of frozen front line for a good proportion of this year. But if you were Putin and you knew that I'm Zelensky, I'm struggling for weapons, and they're probably not going to arrive for months, maybe a year, the risk is you start to smell blood. And you start to go, I'm going to take a degree of risk now, and I'm just going to push forward and accept massive casualties because I know that Ukraine will struggle to withstand that assault. And that's the worry at the moment, is that there's no evidence that the West has solved this problem of generating these high-tech precision strike weapons, but dumb enough that we're prepared to sell them in sufficient numbers and in sufficient time to make a difference. So it's all very well talking about the money being unlocked in Congress. Yes, when that aid is unlocked, there'll be some of the weapons can come out of Western US inventories. But they're huge, but they'll be struggling with the same challenge.
Yeah, and the other thing is we know that actually 60 billion sounds a lot of money, but 60 billion actually does not last very long.
No, because it's not just the weapons. You've got to be paying the soldiers on the ground. You've got to
Everything.
It doesn't go very far.
Yeah.
But no, it's as much about the weapons today as it is about the money. So that's the key.